At some point in the digital age of boss babes, new money, and ambitious rookies, we stopped consulting our village's wisest. Women have been the heartbeat of the world within their respective communities, workforces, and families since the dawn of time. They are the magic makers, the peacemakers, and the ass kickers. Let's celebrate them with the Matriarchy Party.
Hello, everybody, and welcome back to Matriarchy Party. What a thrill to be here today. It is sunny in Scottsdale. I have two spectacular guests today in person, so just pull yourself together, get excited out there. Let's start with my party of one. It has been seemingly wheels up this year. We are like 0 to 100 with travel, and you know, the thing about being a freelancer, it be like that sometimes. I feel like last year I was like, we are not going to be traveling that much. We basically have one job in January, and then I won't work till March, and then right before my eyes, all of February, I'm on an airplane. So we're keeping that American Airlines status, and, you know, that's all there is. This week, my work looked like covering a press tour, shadowing the iconic actor Ke Kwan for the movie Love Hurts, along with Universal Pictures. Now, you probably know Ke. You're like, do I know that name? But most recently, he won an Academy Award for his role in Everything Everywhere All at Once. But if you're a child of the 80s, like you probably more so recognize sweet, joyful Ke from playing Data in The Goonies, or maybe Short Round in Indiana Jones and the Temple of Doom. Can I just tell you, if you've ever seen this man's face, light up your iPhone screen, light up your TV or movie theater screen, he's even better in person. And I always say, like, this is a podcast about and for women, but we're not hating men. And this is just a great example of how much we love this man. Like, there are great and excellent men out in the world, okay? So here I am conveying that to you via work this week. But I manifested this. The whole experience was a dream within a dream. He's everything you could hope for. His voice, first of all, is exactly the same as you remember it, or he sounds on TV. It's not always like that. But the joy and energy that comes through the screen, it's better than in real life. It's so contagious and magical. And not often does it happen. My guests probably have had this happen by their work. But watching people's 10-year-old self just light up when he walked by during like the Today Show and press that we did, or just seeing fans on the street, just feeling people's 10-year-old self freak out when he walked by was so cool. I got to capture such fun content at his hand and footprint ceremony, which I've never done in Hollywood at the iconic TCL Chinese theaters. And that's a core memory I will never forget. Like, my absolute favorite part of my job is getting to watch people's wildest dreams come true. This moment was no exception. Like, Josh Brolin, his Goonies cast, they had a reunion there. Sean Astin is actually in the movie. And Josh Brolin read Steven Spielberg's a speech that Steven wrote to him. And everybody was weeping. I was like, I met this man 4 minutes ago. I'm so invested. You can't help but root for him. He's so cool. I'm just happy for every success. I've been cheering him on as a stranger, and now I feel so grateful that I got to like be in the car and like have these moments with him that were just so special. But his wife Echo is also such a badass. They've been married for 22 years, and she just gets shit done, which, you know, women do. She's moving and shaking and just making sure that things move along and are at the level of excellence that like the family business needs it to be at. And I was just honored to hang out with them, learn from them. 2 seconds after meeting me, she hands me a red envelope for Chinese New Year. I'm like, I'm just honored. I'm weeping. So they're such sweet, genuine people. We also got to shoot with Marshawn Lynch, who I'm not a sports ball girly. However, knowing anything about him, I appreciate anybody who's at the top of their field. And he is such a funny, authentic character that is so true to himself. He does not do press, if there's one thing you know about Marshawn Lynch. And I got a whole hour of time with him because Ke is that trustworthy. He's like, whatever Ke wants to do, I'll do. And all we did was have fun. And I got to feed them Hennessy and capture social content. And what a way to spend a day. So that was a lovely time at work. I'm get to be home for 10 whole days, and then we're on the road again. But the year, it started off dark, and you know what? Our act of resistance is to grasp onto any piece of joy we can. And so let's keep doing that. And let that transition into our very, very exciting guests. Did I mention IRL and two of them? How amazing. I'm just like smiling from ear to ear here. ahead of me on the left, I have award-winning filmmaker, writer, and founder, Azza Cohen. And on her right, well, my right, her left, it doesn't really matter for the context here, but her amazing, incredible, talented wife, Kathleen Borschow. I said that right? I'm going to keep asking. Who's a personal stylist, producer, public interest lawyer, voting rights activist, and organizer from San Juan, Puerto Rico. Now, we got connected because Azza most recently served as the official videographer and director of video for, wait for it, I need you to take a breath, for the president of our hearts, okay? Vice President Kamala Harris and the White House, okay? Azza's also worked with the Academy Award-winning director Vanessa Roth on National Geographic's Impact with Gal Gadot and a docuseries uplifting 6 remarkable women making an impact in their communities. That's how we got connected, because I work with Gal Gadot, and so we are all gal adjacent. Isn't the world, though, as the people's Wonder Woman? Now, after Azza left the White House, just freshly here, it's only February, last month, Kathleen and Azza co-founded Cohen Borschow Media to continue their shared commitment to change-making through storytelling that matters. Welcome to the party, Azza and Kathleen.
Thank you for having us.
We're so excited to be here.
I'm thrilled. I feel like this has been months in the making. I feel like I was lighting up your email after Katie introed us. I was like, there's got to be some synergy here. And since meeting...
And it turns out you were right.
And I'm so
synergy.
delighted. Yeah, because you're in town here in Arizona for, in true matriarchy party fashion, your bubby's birthday, right?
Yes. My bubby, Judy Miller, turns 85 on February 11th, 2025. And we are just loving to celebrate her all the time.
Yes.
She is a film star, and we'll talk more about that. But yes, the bubby, the people's bubby.
The bubby of all people.
The bubby of all people.
Everybody's bubby.
Everybody's
My bubby,
bubby.
for
yeah,
sure.
well, officially. But probably before. I love this. And there's so much we have to talk about. We met literally 40 minutes ago in real life. We're caffeinated. We're ready. There's so many like offshoots of businesses and projects that we're going to work on together.
The
we
synergy
knew
is
this.
palpable.
It is. You can feel it in the room here. How long have you two been together?
We have been together for 2.5 years. We met in October of 2022, approximately 6 weeks after I started dating women for the first time in my life ever at age 34.
I love this. You know, when you know, you know.
When you meet Azza Cohen, you know.
Oh, that is so sweet. I love it.
So this isn't a relationship podcast, but we should share that
I want to hear.
Our first date, we went and had tea and kombucha at a very cute little place in Washington, D.C., near where Kathleen lives, and now where we live together. And
After 6 months, of course.
Yes, after 6
U-Haul
months,
life.
we moved in together. And I fell in love at first sight, and then immediately asked, wait, what are you doing for dinner? And somehow convinced her to go to dinner with me. And then
Correction, she always tells this story that way, but I would like to take credit for saying, what are you doing after this?
Oh.
And then she jumped in and said, nothing, let's have dinner.
it's true. Exactly like that.
And she was such a gentlewoman. Oh. She made sure we ordered everything I wanted and that I had my sparkling water, and she insisted on paying in a not toxic masculinity way, insisted on driving me home the 10-minute walk home. And then 24 hours later, she showed up at my house with a dozen roses and a card that said, and I quote, "You are magnificent. That was the best first date I ever went on. And wherever this journey takes us, I hope it's the last."
My heart.
So folks,
come on.
romance is not dead.
No, it's
if
not.
You're gay, but also probably, hopefully, if you're straight.
You know, some straights have it, but probably most of us, you know, we can only hope.
We're rooting for the straights.
You know, we want everybody to have love like that. But you know, when you just find the person you want to spend the rest of your life with, like you want it to start right away, right? Is that some 90s rom-com Nancy Meyer shit? That's real life. I mean, I'm just like seeing a little emoji heart eyes like flash back and forth. This is so wonderful. So you live in DC. Azza, obviously your job has been especially, well, I mean, there's so many adjectives that I could describe, but were you able to travel on the road together while you were working with Madam Vice President? Or did you barely see each other?
We, you know, I always say, and I'm so glad that you mentioned Key's wife, Echo, in your introduction, your party of one, because I feel so lucky to have a partner who supported my career, this insane job that's very emotionally and physically taxing for me, but at the same time, it is also emotionally and physically taxing for the person who supports you.
Yes.
My wife is the reason I stayed sane and was able to show up every day and be my best self for Madam Vice President Kamala Harris, because she deserved that. And my wife is the person who made breakfast when I had to get up really early and go fly to another part of the country. She would pack my bags when I was too tired. I have a migraine condition, which is why I'm wearing my cute glasses, my blue light blocking glasses. And she would literally, I would put on my ice hat and put on my glasses, and sometimes my vision was so blurry that I couldn't do my work, and I would dictate from bed.
My God.
And Kathleen would. She taught herself how to use Premiere to fix my captions if they were spelled wrong. True love.
And that's how I fell in love with filmmaking and editing and realized that I love to do this. It was doing it, being able to do it with Azza on this incredible ride. Anyway, it was a privilege to be able to support my wife in this magnificent, life-changing, once-in-a-lifetime job.
Honestly, I have chills, and because before that you were styling, you still are styling, but like, so this was kind of your first foray into video and production?
Yeah, actually.
And what a way to just be thrown into the wolves.
Yes. Actually, I'm a lawyer, and so I was...
So sorry.
No.
I was like, I don't want to discount that. You had like 17 different roles.
It's true. Thanks to my wife, who inspired me once I took a break from doing voting rights advocacy after the 2022 midterms, and she noticed that I spent all of my free time like looking at clothes and reading shopping Substacks all day, every day. And because she's such an incredibly supportive partner, I wouldn't have done this. I would have said, do you think maybe you should take a break from shopping and looking at clothes online? There are more important things to do. She said, babe, you think you might want to do this as a profession? And so thanks to the inspiration and support of my wife, I started a personal styling company at age 35 with no prior experience and just being a born old public interest lawyer. And that's how I kind of got my creative juices going. That was a perfect segue into supporting her with the editing work and the filmmaking, and realizing that I really wanted to tell stories. And I believe that we tell stories through how we communicate who's on the inside authentically, externally, through our clothes.
That is so true, because I feel there's so many things that you both have said that are just like ding dong, ding dong. I feel like wearing, I mean, look good, feel good, first of all. And it's like, however you feel like you're most like you is like, you're telling a story, whatever you're saying out there. And certainly I've gone out in like Crocs and sweatpants, and then you're like, why do I feel like shit at Trader Joe's? And you're like, yeah, because I just like threw out, like,
I am nodding vigorously.
I'm not being intentional.
Can you be my spokeswoman?
And so, yes. I'm like, so far we have lots of taglines for our potential businesses and things that we want to post it on.
Courtney is the queen of taglines. I've been taking notes of all of them.
I always wanted to be an OPI nail polish namer, so I feel like that's like come full circle through that. But I think that that's so cool is you have to have, I'm sure in your serious seemingly work as a lawyer, my best friend is a lawyer as well, and I feel like my ADHD brain could never like read these documents and things that like are very serious business. And sometimes
same.
It's a lot. And so to be able to take not a break, but like a respite, I guess it's the same thing. I mean, it's the same thing, but to be able to like work on something that you're passionate about, and then that open a door to then be able to support you in a way. It's like, we're not all just one thing, and we're constantly evolving. And to be able to start like in your mid 30s and do something totally different. I feel like it's so inspiring. And there's so much pressure to have all of your shit together at all times. And you're like, but what if we just allowed ourselves some freedom to evolve? There's just a lot of things in there that I think is very cool and inspiring.
You know, I want to jump in here because Courtney, what you just said is so beautiful and so the heart of this film that I made about my matriarch, Bubby.
Yes.
The film is called Float, and it's
Yes.
about my 82-year-old Bubby learning to swim for the first time. At 82, I asked her, Bubby, what do you want to do before you die? And she said, I want to learn how to swim. And it was such a beautiful, true documentary experience because I had no idea that she didn't know how to swim. But something I want to connect to what you were just saying about it's never too late, having your shit together. Oh my gosh, can we swear?
Yeah.
Okay.
I was like, I
Having your
did,
shit
so
together.
I hope so.
And because it just occurred to me that Kathleen, her first experience of working on a film was working on this film that is about it's never too late to do what you love. And so my wife had her own personal sort of career swerve moment where she wanted to pivot into more creative things. And she was doing that by running the festival strategy and the impact and screening campaign. And in doing so, she was actually living out the truth of what this film is supposed to do, which is inspire people of all ages to just do the thing that maybe you've been scared to do or haven't made the time for.
It's true. We left out the whole section of where right after Azza and I started dating in October, her film was released by the New Yorker magazine documentary section in January. And because she was working for the vice president, she had absolutely no time or capacity to promote the film and apply for film festivals. And I said, well, I just started my sabbatical. I'm not going to let this incredible film that's part of the reason, many reasons I fell in love with her, just languish when it's so important and special. And so I just did it on my own, taught myself how to do it, spent way too much money applying cold to film festivals with no connections and learned so much about that world. But from nothing, we got the film into the Austin Film Festival, the Flickers Rhode Island Film Festival, which are Oscar qualifying film festivals. She won a number of awards, Best Documentary Short, Audience Choice at various film festivals. And so that was really my entry into the filmmaking world, really being able to be at these festivals and meeting the incredible human beings who make films like these all across the country. Was a great entry point for me into this industry, which has its many pros and cons, and meeting like the really authentic on the ground filmmaking artist types was a great entry point for me into the film industry.
Well, yeah, again, I'm like have 10 little like lights that are going off while you're saying that. First of all, cheer on your humans that you love and pump them up. Like watching you guys just like, oh, deflect. I could only do this because of your sport, and I could only do this because of this, and you inspired me to do this, and I could only take that chance of. Everybody should be so lucky to be loved and seen. So, especially if you are, just tell somebody thank you and that you love them. But I love seeing that because going back to what you said, Azza, like. My husband is the only reason that I can do my job, like get on an airplane. We have fur babies and a fort to man here in Phoenix, and I was on 75 airplanes, which I'm very quick to say because I counted it manually last year, and then I realized there's an app for that. But the only reason any of us can do what we're doing is because of the love and support of our people, and that's how this podcast came to be. And the like doing your thing, there's never too late to start to do the thing. Like this podcast was on my heart for 8 years, and it's took many different forms before it is what it is now. But I just think that it's so, when you know, but if there's a little tiny voice inside you telling you like, and poking at you, there's a reason that you have to just at least try. And it's probably expensive, and you're probably going to have to learn new skills, and you're probably going to have to put yourself out there in a vulnerable way. And you probably are going to get a lot of no's, but then that one yes is going to be a life changer.
And you can totally fail along the way. That's great too.
Yeah, what did I read the other day? Probably on the World Wide Web, but it was like, I'm not lucky. I've failed more times than you even tried or something. And I was like, oh, you're right. Just like, don't be afraid of failing. There's so many other topics this podcast could be But I do want to come back because watching, the people want to know, I want to know about the president of my heart, because we're just ignoring. But you had said to me earlier that like your job with, I was like, I feel like I would call her Kamala and that's disrespectful. But so like all of Kamala Harris, I'm like, Madam President, like Madam, what, you know, who we're talking about. But your role changed at noon on January 20th. Like that was like, you're logging off. Yes. And like, what did that look like? I just think that was so fascinating.
So the thing I want to say about January 20th is it was a very emotionally intense day. There's not that many people left in the White House. And I remember seeing the photographs getting taken down of Vice President Kamala Harris and President Joe Biden. And that really will stick with me forever. The feeling that the history was being taken down and maybe it wasn't going to be remembered, everything that she did, all of the progress that she made, everything that she stood for, all the ways that she inspired me and so many other people. And so I had written my piece in Slate about being Kamala Harris's videographer, and I thought that was a really telling metaphor, taking the portrait out of the vice presidential portrait. But the thing that I will remember about that day the most is Vice President Kamala Harris requested an all-woman flight crew for her last flight. Yes.
Oh my gosh, I love it.
And
Chills.
it was so cold. It's a January Monday in Washington, D.C., and we were standing at Joint Base Andrews, the Air Force base from which the president and vice president fly out of. And I remember her shaking every single person's hand, even though it was so cold. We were all freezing. She must have been freezing. And she looked every single person in the eye, thanked them for their service, thanked them for flying her. And I saw this incredible image of the all-woman flight crew. And she and, you know, former second gentleman Doug Emhoff walked on the plane and waved goodbye. And it was so cold that I just didn't even have, I think my tear ducts were frozen. But once I got in the car afterwards, I cried a lot. But it was really, oh my, Kathleen handed me a note. And she's right because I'm forgetting the best part of the story. Okay, so not only on January 20th did she go through the inauguration, the transfer of power, and did it more gracefully than any of us thought was humanly possible. She gets on the plane. She goes to LA. Most of us would probably just go watch TV or like do a yoga class or relax.
Just cry in the bathtub with a large wine.
Exactly.
This is the first time she's like a independent
the
woman.
First to be a human again.
The first time
years.
she's free to do what she wants, and she went to Altadena to World Central Kitchen, and
she's on the ground,
checked in on the people, and I think it's so
telling
of who she is. All of the ways that she intentionally uplifted certain communities, right? The all-female flight crew was not an accident. And so, you know, I have so many other beautiful stories to share about working for her, but the intentionality of her leadership is something that will always stick with me and something that I think about too, right? It's never too late to chase your dreams. It's also never too late to be intentional about inspiring and opening the door for other women behind you, because I saw her do that all the time. And I think about that and the ways that I can do that as well.
I'm literally weeping hearing you talk about this, because I think of like in the Barbie movie when they're all cheering, and I'm like, that goes on over and over again. And listen, I know that there can be a difference of opinions in Republican versus Democrat out there, and listeners, like, I'm not thinking everybody has the same viewpoints as me. But I think that what I stand for in my ethos is very clear. And listen, I always thought like your presidential candidate is not somebody that you need to like idolize. They are your highway on the way to where you want to go. They don't need to lock in with every single thing that you believe in and be your fantasy football team of like a perfect human. Nobody's perfect. But I think that how people, let's simplify it in a way that how people speak about others and treat other people and lift them up is like, that's who you are. And so that tells a lot. And so, yeah, I think about it all the time that we are like in an alternate universe. And I hope the man that is got her job surprises
The man
and
that got the
delights
black
us.
job.
Exactly. But I'm literally like hearing you tell this story. I'm like, so I love that you have so many notes to write. Like, I can't wait to hear all these stories. It's going to be a 19-hour podcast. But I'm literally like tearing up because it's just, it could have been so different. And I remember seeing that, I mean, via the social medias of her on the ground. I was like, girls, first day off. This is the work. Like, this is like, you are a public servant. You have a heart that wants to uplift others, and you're not being selfish on the one day that you probably earned being off the clock.
Yeah,
So
I think
that's really special.
just quickly another example of that, which I wrote about in my article in Slate, and it's gotten...
You guys have to check this Slate article out because it was very profound. You got to, I'll link it, but check it out afterwards.
Yes, read the link. But one of the, I think the part of the article that has really taken off and gotten the most traction is this story about how not just one singular time, but every single time I saw the vice president talk to a young girl, she would not comment on their outfit. She would not comment on how cute they look. She would tell them, you look like the smartest person in your class. And she would ask them about school, about what they like to do in school, their favorite subject. And I noticed myself then with our two wonderful, incidentally very cute and gorgeous little nieces, right? I thought about that so often, how that was not an accident, how she was articulating to young women, your power is your brain. Your power is your leadership. Your power is in what you have to say to the world and not
Your
only
outward appearance.
in how you look, right? Because it's so important to start from a young age with that.
Yeah.
And your power's in your heart.
In your
Totally.
heart as well. So I think about
on the
that
inside.
a lot.
Yep.
Yeah.
And I mean, we all like the duality of being a human. Like, you want to be attractive, you want to be beautiful, but like from such a young age, we're marketed at is like, that's our worth, is to being a prize and a hot babe, which like, yeah, we can do both, but that's not the forefront. I think that's so important, is like the value is your brain and your heart, and that the other piece is secondary, or at least on the same playing field.
Yeah. So I think to the listeners, you know, next time you're interacting with a young human in your life, ask them what their favorite subject is. Ask them what leaders they look up to. Ask them what they're working on in school. I think you'll be amazed, because I was always amazed at the answers that we would hear from these little kids that Kamala Harris would talk to. I mean, the most notable one really was this little girl, Ellie, who was 7 years old and told the vice president that she likes English class and she likes writing. And the vice president told her, I think you should write a book. And this kid literally wrote a book. She literally wrote a book about her experience with the vice president and about having a loud voice and being a girl with a loud voice. And I just can't get that out of my head, right? How powerful it is to have one adult leader say this thing to you.
Why don't you
and
do the
helping
thing?
you do the thing. Do the thing.
Yeah.
So whether you're 7 or in your 30s or in your 80s,
If
Do
you
the
take one
thing.
thing away, go and do the thing that's on your heart. That's so powerful. I see, and I was really shooting my shot because I wanted to work while shooting my shot physically, well, literally and figuratively, because I'm like, oh, I want to work together so bad on this campaign with you. And And life is all about timing. But I would not have been able to. As an empath, I would have been weeping at all of these things. I could not hold it together. And I know we were talking about like when you're shooting content or shooting video, you're so locked in on the subject and getting the shot. And in a producer's mind, I've had that happen many a time where afterwards I was like, hold on, look around and savor this moment. Because you're not even here right now. You're so looking on the output, looking on like how the edit's going to turn out. So I was like, I have to think that I would pull it together in that moment. But I'm like, so far I'm crying just adjacent. I was crying like looking at things on the internet, so I can't imagine being in the field and not like weeping of these interactions with her and little baby children.
Crying is okay,
so, like,
but yes.
And here's my plug for Instagram and social media account, VP46. That's the archive account of
VP46 archive.
VP46 archive, which is all of the incredible videos that Azza and her teeny tiny team of one or two or three at some point filmed and produced throughout the course of the last 2.5 to 4 years. So I highly recommend, if you want to see the real Kamala Harris and the impact that she has on the people that she interacts with and where her heart is, please take
girl, we're probably already following. We've been following for years.
That's what I love to hear, Courtney, because you're a real one.
Yeah. But if you're not, then please go do a deep dive and get some authenticity. That's so special. That's beyond. And yeah, if like you sign something that you can't share.
It's not that I wasn't emotional.
No, I'm sure. Well, especially when your personal, professional life all are intersecting and you're like, I'm used to like putting on your work face for this person who's my boss, and then like you want to be vulnerable and things are lines are blurred, and I get that and totally.
That's why the vice president respected the hell out of Azza.
Yeah, man, doing the most. Okay, so I feel like we talk a lot about. Well, this morning we talked a lot about. Being the person with the warmth and that makes people feel comfortable is how you get the content that viewers want to see. The vulnerable moments, the chemistry moments. And I think like a lot of competitors in all spaces are men, the men with the huge cameras. So I think that we had that in common, that we are like above all human and like wanting to be empathetic, because I feel that same way of just like being able to like sense people's emotions and nerves and anxiety and like want to put people at ease. And
especially in your work where you're filming people at a moment when they're actually surrounded by so many cameras, it's so stressful. Premieres are just really overwhelming.
Totally.
And you have to be the person that they can look to, make eye contact with, and feel okay.
A semblance of like safe, that this isn't going straight online, or like I can be myself, but also like, I mean, I imagine there's so many people you're interacting with all the time and so many new people, new players coming in, children, organizations. But then when it comes down to it, like it's a tight-knit group. And on your team, like you just said, maybe just a couple people within that. But like you become family, I guess is what I'm saying. Like I felt like that with, like saying at the beginning, working with Key. We were together for like 3 or 4 days, and I was like, gosh, I've known him for years. So I can't imagine after 2-4 years with something that you're like you're seeing the highest of highs and the lowest of lows, and you're celebrating and you're crying and you're feeling all the things. There's so much, and how it changed in an instant when Biden dropped out, and it's just, your whole world was rocked, I can imagine. So there's a lot of stories that I want to hear, but it says so much about you, and I feel like I see that, because I do a little bit of that too. It's just like acknowledging and like being able to bridge the gap, because so much of what we do is just like putting on a face. And I mean, imagine like people think of politicians, you're just like being diplomatic and you're just like a talking head and you're just not human. And I think like the same way for actors or other public figures is like, what does anybody know what happens behind private doors? Like the internet is fake. Everybody's full of it. You get to see what everybody's putting out on display, but to be the person in behind those closed doors, capturing and like help crafting this narrative, it's like, it's an honor. And you actually, I feel like from a work standpoint, you're getting the shot because people are feeling safer and they can be vulnerable. But as a human thing, it's like, I love connecting with people, and I imagine both of you two do. I can tell that right away, is being able to like get on the same level, or be like, yeah, we're best friends now. I've known you for 5 minutes and we are on the same page. But
turns
you
out
have
it's
to humanize
not
it.
just about who has the biggest camera.
Are you alluding to a dick swinging contest? I think maybe, but yeah, it doesn't have to be that you and your iPhone can get all that what you're working with, not an iPhone, but I mean, a little camera can get the job done.
Yes, my little Sony FX3.
That's pretty magical. Well, I want to know what both of your favorite things you worked on this year was.
Does that include 2024?
Yeah. I mean like the last 365, not the last month.
Okay, cool.
Because this year so far,
It's just but February.
Yeah. Also, it's been bad.
It's been a little dark. Yeah, I feel that.
I think my favorite piece that I filmed with the vice president was in March of 2024, when she became the first president or vice president to visit an abortion clinic. It was very intentional. It was a very emotional, amazingly interesting and profound trip. And what I remember so vividly is being in the clinic, filming her with this incredible Dr. Sarah Traxler, of the Planned Parenthood North Central States that's based in Twin Cities in Minnesota. And the doctor was walking her through the clinic. She was meeting people, thanking them for their work. It's obviously really emotionally laborious. It's really taxing, intense work. And she was thanking all the doctors, all the staff, the nurses, everybody who works at this clinic. And then she goes outside in their lobby and does this press conference where she's uplifting the doctor. The doctor spoke herself about the situation that they were in, and she paused in maybe halfway through her remarks, and she just said, uterus. And you could hear a pin drop, because it really, for me, represented representation, that she was the first White House principal to ever really draw attention to this issue. And she's a woman. And she was not afraid to talk about then the rest of her remarks. You know, she talked about how these clinics closing doesn't just affect abortion care, it affects breast cancer screenings and other types of cancer screenings, HIV screenings, right? Pap smears, all these important health things that so many people have the privilege to ignore. So many people in power who have who are mostly men, who ignore. And I remember thinking just how lucky I was to get to be there, filming that in that moment, not just to be filming her, but to also be in the room. I remember with my camera, I did a quick pan of all the other cameras in the room, and all of them looking at her in this moment and paying attention to this topic, because she used her vice presidential podium to make this a priority and make news organizations pay attention to it. So that was it was intense, but it was my favorite thing that I got to film.
Wow.
Since we've already talked about my starting a personal styling company, and that was just the most incredible thing that I did in the first half of the year, and then I put it on hold when Kamala Harris was announced as the candidate for president in July, and we canceled our honeymoon and went to the DNC instead, which we were very happy to do, and sent Azza's mother and sister on our honeymoon. Literally, they stayed in our Airbnb. They went to the Taylor Swift concert, RIP.
Oh my
They went to see Phantom of the Opera. They had the week of their lives.
All planned by you.
On our
Curated.
Speaking of matriarchs, you
Exactly.
know? Honor your
Women supporting
matriarchs
Support the women in our
by
lives.
giving them the chance to go on your honeymoon.
Yeah. I told them, I said, the only way I will not be devastated is if you go on our honeymoon.
Oh.
So we went to the DNC together. Actually, it was my birthday on the Thursday night, the 22nd of August, when the vice president accepted the nomination. Best birthday present ever. But immediately afterward, one of Azza's friends from high school, Danny Wine, and his friend Jeffrey Amora wanted to start an organization that would bring together the LGBTQIA plus community to fight to elect our president, Kamala Harris, because we believe deeply and knew that she was the only real ally on the ticket for the LGBT community and all of our allies intersectionally. And so we started Queers for Kamala, and it turned into the most beautiful, incredible movement where we wanted to inspire the queer community across the country, and particularly, especially in New York City, where they lived, and I did this remotely from DC, to take action and feel motivated to get up and do something. And so we organized bus trips from New York City to Philly and all over Pennsylvania. And so we sent people on about 25 different bus trips over several weekends in October and, of course, the last weekend in November. And I led a bunch of these bus trips, and just being able to organize people and communicate with people I love. I did voter protection organizing in 2020 for the Biden-Harris campaign in North Carolina and Georgia, and just being able to work with volunteers and bring all these canvassers, all these people from all kinds of different industries and walks of life and ages, and not queer people showed up on our buses, and we had the time of our lives and the 2.5 to 3 to 4 hours each way on these buses to go in the middle of nowhere, rural Pennsylvania, or the outskirts of Philly, some towns that have been forgotten for too long in America, and really get one-on-one and do this deep canvassing work and knock on doors and have conversations and share their stories and show up completely authentically and vulnerably and knock on the door and say, here's why I'm voting for Kamala Harris. How about you? And having a real conversation was the best thing I did in 2024. And just a couple of weeks ago, Azza and I were in New York City because the Stonewall Democrats of New York honored Queers for Kamala for the work we did in the election. And it's just always a reminder that, A, our stories matter and we need to tell our stories, and we need to center our shared humanity. And as long as we're sharing our stories through our own narratives and not letting others shape our narratives, I believe that we can forge true human connection and understanding, and that we need to be doing this all the time in really authentic ways that really speak to people rather than necessarily consultants who have been around for a while. And that's, what we want to do with our media production company moving forward is telling these stories with people, not for people.
I love that. First of all, it just goes back to, what you were saying earlier. 30 is so young in the grand blip of things. Like, it is so young. We have so many more years. We've talked about the little girls. We've talked about our grandmas, and we're going to talk about bubbies more shortly here. But I feel like the telling of stories and making sure that, especially right now, it feels like storytelling and continuing to tell the stories and making that history known and not erased in a very scary time. It's just going to continue to be more and more prevalent. I'm so glad that you were honored and recognized for that, because it is so meaningful, and I'm sure for so many in the community. Speaking of a production company, what are you two excited, nervous, working on right now with it?
What an excellent question. Because
So
we
many
are
things.
working on so many things together. Our first scheduled shoot that we're so excited about is with my father-in-law, my wonderful father-in-law, Kathleen's dad, who runs an amazing organization in Puerto Rico that does economic development, uplifting communities. And so we will be doing some amazing storytelling with them in advance of their 15-year anniversary, especially because they receive government funding and it might not exist soon. So, just being able to learn about and work with the place where my wife comes from, I'm very excited to go.
Speaking of good men, I learned my political heart from my dad growing up.
Yes. Shout out to John.
And he's very, very supportive and always has been of my public interest career. And now he's very supportive of us starting our company. All of my family are entrepreneurs, and I was the only one, and that wasn't. And it was probably because I'm a woman, and I just didn't believe in myself that I could do it until 36. Now that I have this incredible woman by my side.
Never too late. We're also going to be, as I mentioned, that trip to the abortion clinic was very special and meaningful to me as a person. It's a subject that's very close to my heart, reproductive freedom and just bodily autonomy. Sure. And so we will be also working with Reproductive Freedom for All, an amazing organization, and doing some storytelling for them. We want to just do more complicating and humanizing of the narrative around abortion care in this country, making sure that we are highlighting voices that aren't really being heard right now. We have lots of other things.
We submitted a proposal to the Paid Leave for All campaign. We haven't gotten it yet, so whoever gets it, I'm sure, is going to do a great job. But just putting in a plug for our company, because we want to tell these stories about the intersectionality that we have, our own identities. We are queer women, we are cis women, and so we desperately are. It is so urgent to support trans folks at the forefront of the LGBT community. And we want to tell queer stories. We came out so late. It's never too late. Yeah. We came out in our late 20s and 30s, and it's hugely important for us throughout the work that we do in our lives to center representation for people like us who just didn't know it. Just for some reason, for many reasons, the way our heteronormative society, compulsory heterosexuality, where we grew up, the stories we told ourselves, it just wasn't something that was available to our psyches until we finally got there. And we want to tell a whole diverse range of LGBTQIA plus stories because we believe the spectrum is endless and the world is expansive enough to include the whole endless spectrum. So that's going to be a huge part of the work that we do, is telling queer stories, again, from our own authentic narratives and not letting folks who want to erase us and decide how gender is going to be construed in a anti-woman, anti-queer, fascist society. Mm-hmm. We're going to take the reins and have our community tell our stories. Also, we're both children and grandchildren of immigrants. My mom immigrated to the United States at age 19 from the former Soviet Union, Jewish refugees on Azza's families and my dad's side as well. So being immigrants is an essential part of our identities. And so that's something that's really important for us to center in our storytelling as well. Azza has an invisible disability with her migraine, and she's made some films about that, and we want to continue telling stories of the disabled community as well, which I'm sure will be targeted under this administration.
We're developing a very fun queer travel show, a TV series.
In your free time.
In our free time.
That's so many exciting things that we can see what's going on. Like, I feel like you hit the ground running.
Yeah. Well, oh God. So Azza ends the hardest job in the world on January 20th in the hardest way. And then I drag her 2 days later across the country, 3-hour time difference, to Las Vegas, Nevada, where we participated in the Creating Change conference that's put on every year by the LGBTQ task force. And so we hit the ground running, having nonstop meetings all day, every day since then. Vegas, New York, Princeton, DC, and now we're in Phoenix, because if not now, when are we going to launch?
But you're going to get a honeymoon soon.
We're getting the honeymoon soon.
It starts in 2 days on Wednesday.
Oh,
we snuck
I'm so
this amazing podcast in a couple days before our break.
I'm so lucky. Yeah, and then I just want you to be like in the sand. And like just,
Thank you.
but you're
We'll
going to
try.
be like scheming for your business for
I
sure. You're going to
know,
like,
I
finally we have some
can't
time
help
to
it.
strategize. And I'm like, one day,
Yes.
just turn the phones off and
Yes.
like read some like fluffy novel or
Azza
something.
will be
or something.
reading a book every couple of days.
Good.
I'll
will
make
Just
sure of
whatever
it.
you want. Just, you deserve some R&R. Just like love time, you know,
Thank
just
you.
like drive your little heart-shaped car,
Can we write
your little
that
heart-shaped
one?
cloud.
Yeah, I love it.
So much to talk to you about, but we need to talk about Bubby. It's very
We
exciting.
do need to talk about Bubby.
So, spoiler alert, we're talking about Bubby. We've already heard a little bit about her learning how to swim at 82. And would you like to share, or are you also going to chime in about Bubby? Would you like to talk about someone else?
Oh, I can talk briefly about my Bubby. So it's, I think, a good story. So my last grandparent, I was very close with all four of my grandparents. I love both of my grandmothers. My dad's mom passed away when I was in high school, and my mom's mom, who was the baddest bitch I know, who had purple hair or blue hair depending on the day.
Amazing.
She passed away in November, a month after Azza and I met. And Azza got to meet her, not knowing yet that I was dating Azza, thought she was just a friend. And my grandmother went on her own terms, and it just was such a spiritual experience. Her death, I honestly will cherish it forever. She just seemed so at peace, and she was going between this world and the next one and having all kinds of dreams and conversations with my grandpa, who had passed away in 2016. She was sleeping 23 hours a day, but she didn't seem to be suffering. And so I went to visit her the last time I saw her in November with my mom, and she was sleeping most of the time. And then the last morning, she says, "Katynka, come here." She was the bossiest person you know. Several times over, this time she would tell me that I was her soulmate and the love of her life, and it was so meaningful. And she calls me in, and of course, when she's awake, she's 100% lucid and 100% herself, because I wouldn't imagine her going any other way. Yeah. She was not only the matriarch of my family, she was the matriarch of her entire Russian Jewish community that all immigrated from the Soviet Union around the same time to the East Coast, Rhode Island, Boston, New York. We always joke that she was like the head of the KGB secretly. Like, she would exile people from their community. I joke that she would have been an amazing dictator. And I'm sorry she didn't get to have that experience, and maybe we're better off for it. But she was a bad bitch. And so on her deathbed, she calls me in and she says, "Katynka, I hear you have boyfriend." And my mom and I had talked about it previously. I had just come out, and she said, "Look, I leave it to you." Thank God my mom was so supportive. She's like, "I'm nervous. I'm worried. What if we kill her?" Telling her that I'm gay.
Shocking news.
She was like, she came from the former Soviet Union, so unfortunately she was a Republican, because no Karl Marx for her and my grandpa.
I get it.
And so I was worried that she would be homophobic, but she had nuanced views, a very feminist person who had interesting views on women. So I'm like, all right, here, it's now or never. My grandma's going to die imminently. Am I going to come out to her? The one grandparent I will get to come out to.
Yeah.
And so I decide, well, Baba Tanya, actually, I have something to tell you. And she says, okay. And I said, I'm dating a woman. She takes a beat and she says, I am happy for you. How old is she?
That's the question.
How old is her uterus?
Get-
Is her uterus young? Because she used to tell me that if I didn't have kids before I was 30, that my children would be stupid. And she had her kids at age 20, in the old country.
Of course, as a child bride.
Of course.
Yeah.
Once I turned 30, she conveniently stopped saying that. But she was actually so happy for me.
Oh my gosh.
And I told her all about Azza. I said, don't worry her. She's a very young uterus. She's only 29 years old. And
So young.
I said we were going to name our first child after her, Tatiana. And she said, well, it has to be boy. always practical. And so that's my freaking grandma who, people can surprise you. The matriarchs in your life are way more complicated than you think.
100%.
And we can't begin to understand their story. She was the pioneer who brought her entire community and family over from the former Soviet Union in the 1970s when, one of the waves that the United States was taking in refugees. It was her idea. She made it happen. And
she
they
used to fight the boys.
She grew up in
Tatiana.
Uzbekistan in a Jewish tribe. She's a Bukharian Jew. You may have heard of them. She had long braids, and she used to fight the boys with one hand behind her back. And she's
Baddie.
Oh, the baddiest. She and Azza's Bubby would have gotten along well. So to wrap the story of my matriarch, Baba Tanya, so I lose her in November. I had just met Azza. In February, I have an event with a dear friend here who is becoming a Ninth Circuit judge here, Rupali Desai. And I was invited to her investiture, and I was so happy to be there. And I'm like, well, I'm in Arizona, and Azza's aunt and uncle and Bubby and grandpa, her poppy, live here. I'm just going to go stay with them, even though I've never met them. We just announced that we're dating a couple months ago. Azza's like newly gay. And so I stayed with Bubby and Poppy for the weekend and had Shabbat dinner immediately upon arrival with her aunt and uncle, Adam and Lori, who took me in just like I was their niece. Aww. And that was my first in-person interaction with Bubby. And she, from the first second, treated me like her granddaughter. And so I just felt, again, this spiritual journey of my grandmother's passing, like she was passing me on to this new Bubby who became my grandmother and carried the torch. And so it's just been a beautiful experience to incorporate Azza's Bubby, inherit a new Bubby.
Nobody can ever have too many Bubbies.
That's
honestly.
right. That's right.
But that's so magical because I'm sure there's got to be a lot of anxiety going into it, like new family, and we're going to like stay the night and maybe like how the dynamic's going to be or how their Shabbat's going to be different. And like, I feel like just you love, I mean, that's how it should be. In theory, it makes so much sense. They love you so much. So anybody you love.
And they saw how
why wouldn't they
happy
just accept you?
Azza was.
Yes.
Yeah. Her grandpa said, I've only known you for 2 days and I already love you.
Oh, come on.
Yeah.
Grandparents are the best.
They are.
Well,
I mean, I won the grandparent lottery, but
the great thing about it is I think everybody did.
Yeah.
Like just having grandparents.
Yeah.
It's the lottery.
Yes.
My my Bubby, we'd always had a beautiful, close relationship. And when I think of matriarchs, I think of her trailblazing with her beautiful, very direct, very uplifting spirit. Her motto, her mantra is make it a good day. She says it to everybody. That's how she hangs up the phone. That's even how you hear her voicemail. The end of her voicemail says, make it a good day. And I think that kind of enthusiasm and optimism is a really beautiful way to move through the world. So sometimes when I'm feeling down, I tell that to myself. I say, make it a good day. My Bubby, now that I was reflecting before the podcast, what kind of lessons did she teach me? I believe that I am a documentary filmmaker because of my Bubby. And it's not because she was ever in the film industry. It's because she taught me how to talk to people and how to listen. She makes friends with anybody. This woman makes friends with every cashier. You have to budget so much extra time whenever you're doing any single errand with Bubby, because if you go grocery shopping, she's going to make friends with the butcher, the person at the deli counter, the cashier, the person bagging the groceries, literally every single person she spends time with. She looks you in the eye. She asks a question, compliments something about your outfit.
She's doing her own investigative journalism.
She's truly making friends everywhere. We just celebrated her 85th birthday on Saturday with a big party, and my mom had reached out to a bunch of people in her life, friends, family, to send in little videos.
Cashiers at the grocery store.
And literally the lady at the dry cleaner submitted a video because she loves Bubby so much and really looks forward to her coming in because Bubby's just really fun to be with. And, she, from such a young age, I got to just spend time with her and see her asking people about their lives and how it taught me that everybody has a story. Another thing about my Bubby that makes me think of my job and feeling more confident in myself is how much she doesn't give a shit about what other people think. She is exactly who she is. And one way that she has showed that to me, sort of demonstrated it by example, is a couple of times in my life, I, wanted to do something a little different. And when I graduated college, I really wanted to get a double pierce, which is so vanilla, but it was, a big deal in my family at the time. And Bubby said, well, I'm taking you. And so we go to Claire's in Scottsdale.
As you do.
With all the little 8-year-old girls getting their ears pierced too. And Bubby gets the ear piercing with me. She got a double pierce and I got a double pierce.
Come on.
And
slay.
She's so cool. When after I came out, I was just looking for a new look. I was feeling insecure, but also on my way to confidence. And so I joked to Bubby that I needed a new hairstyle. And she said, okay, we'll do it. And she dyed my hair purple in her bathroom. I'll send you pictures of this so we can maybe link it or something, because it's so funny. I have the picture of us getting our ears pierced together, and I have the picture of her dyeing my hair purple. So I feel very lucky that her personality has shown me so much and has really helped me do what I do, which is put people at ease, be optimistic, and also be yourself and show up as yourself fully, because that's the only way you're going to get somebody that you're filming to show up as themselves fully too.
That's so true. And I think earlier you said that you are so used to being behind the camera and observing and listening. But it's so funny because so much of you is because of Bubby, and she's the one who's interviewing and talking and getting people to talk. And so you learn so much from her, but also, I guess by watching her, she was your subject, your whole childhood. And now, even though you're not the one maybe doing the talking, you're the one observing and capturing. It's just an interesting dynamic that you're like, oh yeah, she was your first person that you did a documentary in your brain about, because you learned so much about her having all the interactions with every single person you ever ran into.
And I had always wanted to make a film about her. So when I was in film school, I remember soft pitching, as you have to do in film school, to my professors, I want to make a documentary about my grandma. And they were like,
I'm sure just normal, with that, you're like, okay,
normal. They were like, sure.
Been there,
grandma learning how
before.
to swim. Yeah. And then I showed them one video of her and they were sold.
They were like, oh, she's a star.
She's got such a personality.
Was it the video that got you in to
it was
in the first place?
It was a video. I had to make a video for a scholarship application, and the video you had to teach something in under 2 minutes.
Oh.
And so what I taught was how to make matzo balls with my Bubby. And I will never forget, I was so embarrassed, but also it got me into grad school, where she's shaping the matzo balls and she goes, shape them like buzzies. And she's pointing at her own boobs, and it was so funny. And
only your 80-year-old Bubby can get away with that,
And you know what? I got the scholarship.
I think
got
it all
into
worked.
grad school, and it worked out. And she, obviously, her magnetism was always so contagious. And at the same time, and I think this is such an important lesson that I learned from filming Float, which is the name of the film about my Bubby learning to swim. I remember first going to her and saying, Bubby, I want to make my grad school thesis about you. And she's like, me? Why me? What do I even have to say? And it was a little bit self-deprecating, but it also reflected this sexist worldview that people think. She said, oh, I haven't worked in so long. I've only been a mom. I've only been a grandma. I'm just this. And I said, Bubby, your story matters. And that's something that I really took away from the film, which is also, as a filmmaker, where you point your camera gives dignity to that person's story. And we need, as a society, right, to point our cameras more at people who think their stories aren't worth telling, because those are the stories we need to hear.
That's profound. Yeah.
Especially grandmas.
I think women over 50, 60 are I mean, in humans, honestly, you're just like, what are not of value, or your story doesn't matter after you hit a certain age. We were talking about that earlier of just like this, I want to be on the Forbes 30 before 30 or 40 under 40 or all of these lists, these milestones, when you're just a baby. Like, you think you know everything when you're 18 years old and you don't know anything. And we were saying, like, the most engaging, uplifting, important stories are those that are like celebrating that. I think I gave the example of like Monet didn't do his famous works of art until like the last 10 years of his life, or like Martha Stewart wasn't Martha Stewart until she was in her 40s. Like,
Ava DuVernay
picked up a camera when she was 33.
Julia Child was, I think, in her 50s.
Yeah.
Like, I love hearing about that. It's not too late is the theme of the podcast today. But I think like it is so hard. Well, that's one, landing that helicopter is just, people have stories to tell at any age. And I feel like the same respect and dignity should be given if you're 5 or if you're 100. But secondly, thinking about asking grandmas to share about themselves when they're still in the mindset. I mean, because I said the same experience of like interviewing my own grandmas when this podcast was first going to be interviewing grandmas, getting 80-year-olds to talk about themselves, especially women. Hard. They're like, oh, I'm just a mom. I'm just a grandma. And I'm like, stop saying just. Your story matters. You have so many interesting things. And like what we were talking about earlier was just how technology has evolved, how the world has evolved, and like how all of your entry into adulthood, womanhood looks so different because the world is so different now. But yeah, I'm not surprised at like, there's always so much shyness. Moms have still a little bit of that, but for the most part, like grandmas of that certain closer to 100, the later in life, like just feel like, oh, why would you waste your time on me? Or why would you do that? And you're like, oh, don't talk about yourself like that. Like, there's so much I've learned from you. There's so much, that you were resilient through, that you work through, that like history has changed because of your life experience. That is so important.
We wouldn't be here.
We physically wouldn't be here, but
boss bitches if it weren't for the women who came before us, who
being boss bitches,
trailblazed.
Yes.
And part of the reason that history repeats itself is because we have such short memories, and so many of us weren't alive.
Right.
When just a few decades ago, women couldn't even have a credit card in their own line of credit, and they were
get a divorce,
and there are so many examples.
Yeah.
And that is so recent. We've just forgotten. That's why we need women to tell their stories.
Yes. Period. Well, what do you most admire about your bubbies, respectively?
I think that we both admire one thing about them in addition to others. My Bubba Tanya was so strong and so resilient and so brave and so unapologetic. It was always interesting for me to see the contrast with kind of this role of women that she imagined while also totally being the boss of everybody. Like when I remember I was in DC walking across in Mount Vernon Triangle. I distinctly remember telling my grandma I was so proud of this job I just gotten working for Senator Patty Murray on the Health, Education, and Pensions Committee in the Senate. And I'm telling her about this job, and she says, who's the senator? And I say, Patty Murray. And she says, oh, Katinka, a woman senator? Like, you can only laugh at that point, because, like, my grandma was so feminist.
And you're like, it's gotten you too?
And just to have these, and it, you think about the time that we're in and all the women who voted against their interests and against their power in this election, and
still very much exists.
And I think that's a really important framework for us to keep in mind as we're telling these stories, and how we can hold different concepts in our minds at the same time. My grandma was an immense feminist while at the same time holding these conflicting views, but I'm still going to hold her up as a feminist icon for me, who was never afraid to speak her mind, never afraid to stand up, not for what she believed in the same way that I do, but for her family and her people. So many of family friends even who weren't related to her, she's the one who brought them over, who made it happen from the former Soviet Union. And so people are much more nuanced than we can imagine, and there aren't just these black and white, one-sided stories that we can tell about people. And I think that is one of the ways that we can move through and come out on the other side of what's happening right now in the United States and across the world, is just to be able to hold complicated nuance about our humanity, and in particular, as we're talking about today, women.
1,000%. Final question.
Yes.
If you could say anything to your bubby, what would it be, and can we call her?
I would love to call her. And I think before I do, I just want to say, Bubby, thank you for being so vulnerable and so brave with me. It is not easy to have a camera follow you around, especially when you're putting on a bathing suit.
100%.
And I am so, so grateful that we got to do our film together, not because of what the film turned out to be, but because of the process. It was so special to get to do that together. And
What a core memory.
So here we
Can't
go.
wait to watch it. Yes, let's call
And you
it.
came out to Bubby during that process,
I did.
and she embraced you unconditionally.
Okay, here we go.
All
Put
any
her
of
on
us could
speaker.
hope for.
Yep.
Bubby herself.
Hello.
Hi, Bubby.
Hi, Shayna girl. How are you, Mama Love?
You have me and Kathleen,
Hi, Bubs.
and then also our new friend Courtney, who is an amazing business owner. She is a producer. She works in Hollywood. She works with Gal Gadot, just like I did. She's very cool, and she has this podcast, and we're interviewing on it.
Okay, whatever you want, Mama Love.
We're talking about the most important women in our lives, the matriarchs in our lives, and that's why, of course, we had to call you, because you're the most important matriarch in our lives.
I gotta tell you something. My phones are no good, and I'm deaf as a doornail, so you have to speak slowly, please.
Can you hear me now?
Yes.
Okay, I'm going to turn it over to Courtney, who is an amazing woman who leads a podcast talking about amazing women like you.
Okie dokie. Let's have Courtney.
Hi, Bubby. It's an honor to meet you.
Oh, you're sweet. I wish I could see you in person.
I know. Maybe
But go
one
ahead,
day.
baby.
I live
Ask
right
me
in
whatever
Phoenix,
your heart wants.
so one day maybe I'll come over and we'll have some coffee together or something, because I'm right across town.
Okay.
Well, this is my question was for Azza, both Azza and Kathleen, that if you could say anything to the matriarch of your life, what would it be? And we just spent the last over an hour talking about how wonderful and incredible you are. And so this was just
Oh, my God.
a moment
I gotta
for them
live
to
up
gush.
all of that?
Well, I got to listen to it, and you're going to have to once it's live. But now I'm just allowing them time to just compliment you over the phone here, although I'm sure that you hear it all the time from them.
You just ask me whatever your heart desires, but just speak slowly. My phones aren't great, so that doesn't help me. Go ahead, Mommy. Go ahead, Dolphy.
Well, Bubby, my question for you, so that all the amazing listeners of this podcast can learn something from you, is what's your advice for living a good life? What's your advice for trying something new like you did, like learning how to swim at age 82? What would you say to people who are afraid to do something new?
Well, my advice for living a good life, now that I'm 85, is very different than it would have been had I been younger. When you're young, everything takes on a gigantic, and you get a zit on your face when you're going out on a date, and it's catastrophic. Now that I've lived a couple more years, I see all those things are not important. What's important is to make each day count. Make it, like I always say, make it a good day. And if the day isn't really great, find something good about it. Second of all, when you're young, you're very busy, interested in whatever people look at you and what you present yourself. And really, they're only interested in the size of their own tushy. They're not interested in yours. So my advice is easy does it, and really don't sweat the small stuff. Whoever came up with that wonderful little book really knew what's very short, very direct, and very straight.
That's fantastic.
Thanks, Bubby. We love
Answer
you.
baby.
That was
Thank
great.
you.
Did you have anything else for her?
That was wonderful. We just wanted to tell you thank you.
It's terrible. I can't hear. Go ahead. Speak a little slower, honey.
No, you did a perfect job, and that's all we needed, Bubs.
Thank
Love
you.
We'll see you later.
We love you so much.
That's all you're asking me was that one question.
Okay,
Yeah.
the next question is, what advice do you have for someone starting something new later in life?
Okay. I always said, dream big. When my daughter, who is in her early 60s now, Star Wars was very, very big. Star Trek, excuse me. She wanted to be an astronaut. And I said, go to it, baby. You can be anything you want. And here, lo and behold, there's lady astronauts. Cakeless, I call her Cakes. Her name, now she's really not going to like this. We gave her a name when she was born, was Elegant Alexandra. This says a lot about your little Azza. One day when she's about 2.5 or 3 years old, she comes out of nowhere in her home and says, I, Azza. And she never again answered to Alexandra. She went through grammar school, middle school, high school. When she was going to enter college, she had to legally change her name to Azza. So my little princess has a strong backbone, and when she wants something, she figures out a way to do it. And I always said, dream big, and whatever your heart dreams of, you could make it happen. It just, you have to have faith in yourself, and you have to have an imagination. You really have to dream out of the box, and that really, I think, is what helps youngsters come up with these wonderful I can't pronounce the word, entrepreneurial, but say the word for me, Courtney, with these wonderful ideas. They think out of the box.
Absolutely.
That was perfect,
That was so
Bubby.
perfect.
Thank you so much. We're going to see you for dinner tonight, okay?
We love you.
Okay,
We
baby
love you.
doll.
You're the
Okay.
greatest.
Bye-bye.
Thanks,
Hey.
Bobby.
Bye, Bubs.
Bye.
That was so magical. She's amazing. Well, both of you, such a pleasure to meet you. Thank you for your time. I know we could just talk all day, and we basically did. So
Should we just be your regular
so
guests
yes,
once a
same
month?
time next week. Let's do
This
it.
is the best hour
We
I've
can do it on
spent.
Zoom. It was such a delight. Everybody, if you want to connect more or see all the cool things that they're doing with their production company, you can follow Azza at AZZACOHEN, her name, Azza Cohen, and Kathleen at Late Bloomers Styling. That's 2 S's, Late Bloomers Styling, or you can find them on LinkedIn. Thank you so much. Thank you for coming to the party. I have learned so much about you. I'm so inspired by you before today, and then now and beyond. I'm so excited to cheer on what you guys have going on in the future. We're such kindred spirits. I feel like this is just the beginning of
Yes.
collaboration.
And in the spirit of feminism, a quick plug for some other stuff that we've got going on.
Please.
Definitely follow me on Instagram, where I will be showing some amazing videos and pictures from my time working for our president, Kamala Harris. I am writing a book. I just got a book agent, so I'm so excited.
Congrats.
Shout out to Matriarchs, my matriarch, Bridget Matsey at Avitas Creative. I'm writing a book about women behind and in front of the camera. It's going to be a real matriarchy party. And I am also about to start having a column at The Contrarian, which is a new, amazing news outlet. And I'm going to be writing a column about how women are portrayed in the media and how we can and must do a better job with it. And if you want to get in touch with us,
finally, we just incorporated our LLC thanks to our amazing friends, Clarissa and Brendan, who put their own shingle up as
small business
husband,
owners.
wife, lawyer partners. So you can get in touch with us. Our website is still in the works, but we called our company CohenBorschowMedia.com, and you can get in touch with us at Azza or Kathleen or info@CohenBorschowMedia.com if you want to work with us to tell your stories as part of the resistance and uplifting women and queer folks and immigrants and people of color and all of the beautiful, diverse voices that make up this amazing country.
Oh, I love that. Oh,
Thank you, Courtney.
Thank you so much. Guys, remember, if you have the gift of having the ability to call your mom, grandma, mentor, go do it. Tell them you love them. Ask them about their life. Get out there and, like Bubby says, make it a good day. Actually, make it a great day. Okay? All of the above. Thank you. See you next week. Bye.